Okay.
Okay, good afternoon, dear students.
Good afternoon.
So this is our seminar classes. So if you have any volunteers to start passing the,
Yes, can I start?
yeah,
Would you
well,
give a permission?
I will give you permission to demonstrate your screen. Okay, so you have a permission.
Okay, thank you. So wait a minute. I'm opening my prepared slides. Now, is it visible for you?
Yes.
Okay, then I will start. Today is my prepared theme is literature as a base of improving vocabulary. As we know, to learn some kind of, at first, here are my plan for these slides. Vocabulary is one of the main things in learning, and a vocabulary in literature, such as idioms, metaphors, or formality. And the last one, benefits of learning vocabulary by literature. And as you know, vocabulary is a foundation and is one of the main part of learning language. In a nutshell, vocabulary is an important because it is the basis of all language. It is a rule building block that we can use to express our thoughts and ideas, share information, understand others, and grow personal relationships. Even if we barely know a language and have zero grasp of grammar, we can still communicate, of course, by vocabularies. Vocabulary is an ultimately important part of English language learning as it aids learners to express words. For example, Wilkins wrote that while without a grammar, very little can be conveyed. Without vocabulary, nothing can be conveyed. Yes, it shows the importance of vocabulary in communication, which is the goal of English learning. However, Jeffrey Power and Kosha stated that EFL learners have difficulties in using vocabulary effectively because of the lack of contextual language knowledge. And the English vocabulary is complex, with three main aspects related to form, meaning, and use, as well as layers of meaning connected to the roots of individual words. Teaching vocabulary is not just about words, it involves lexical phrases and the knowledge of English vocabulary and how to about learning to and teaching it, which the next chapter explores. Here, vocabulary in the literature, we can, in literature, as you know, vocabulary is formal than our daily speech. And in literature, there are a lot of items, formality, metaphors, um, which we don't use in our daily speeches. For example, a famous example items in the literature. And at first, item is a figure of speech that means something different than a literal translation of words would lead one to believe. For example, it's raining cats and dogs. It's a common item in English, but it is not meant to be taken literal. We can use like this. Household pets are not falling from the sky. And it's a colorful way of saying that it's raining really hard outside. For example, some kind of examples in literature from William Shakespeare's works. Break the ice. This phrase was first used in the timing of the shoe. Trainer encourages Petruchia to break the ice, with Catherine to get to know her, suggesting that he may like her better and get her to like him. Today, this phrase is used to refer to relieving tension or getting to know someone better, usually by making small talk or a kind gesture to start a new relationship. Wearing my heart up in my sleeve. This saying was first used in Othello when Iago describes how he would be vulnerable if he relieved his dislike of Othello. In the play, the phrase continues to state that those or crows would be able to peck at his heart if he revealed it. And the others set my teeth on edge, or there is method in my madness, and so on. And as I mentioned, metaphors also are the most beautiful part of our speech. Um, Metaphor is a literal device that imaginatively draws a comparison between two unlike things. Metaphors in literature are drops of water. As essential as they are ubiquitous, writers use literature metaphors to evoke an emotional response or paint a vivid picture. Other times, a metaphor might explain a phenomenon, give now here is some kind of examples for metaphor in literature. Exhaustion is a thin blanket tethered with bullet holes. It's from Matthew de Abaito. Next one, but it is just two lovers holding hands and in a hurry to reach their car. They locked hands as starfish leaping through the dark. The sun in the west was a drop of burning gold that slid nearer and nearer the seal of the world. As we know, there wouldn't be a real drop of burning gold, yes? And the last plan is my benefits improving vocabulary by literature. As we know, how many or how much we learn vocabulary or read some kind of book from literature, it helps us to increase our lexicon and makes our speech better, and we can easily speak in formal way anywhere and anytime, and it helps our communicating increase our communicating ideas, occupational success, and of course it's important to language development. And for conclusion, meanwhile, according to Cameron, vocabulary is not simple about learning words, but it is actually much more than that. It is also about learning chunks and finding words inside them. From the definition above, it can be concluded that vocabulary is a knowledge of words and the word meanings. It's about words in language used to express meanings. Therefore, learning is a crucial matter in developing the English language.
Finish it?
Yes.
Okay. So do you have any questions, dear students?
And the teacher, I have a request for you.
Uh-huh. What kind of request?
No. As you see, I'm ill now. So can I leave the lesson? I'm almost shaving.
Okay, thanks a lot. Yes, you may. If you have a
Yeah.
problem with
Thank
your
you a
health,
lot for your understanding.
I wish you to get better as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Okay, who would like to continue?
Can I?
Galia. Farhat. So you also may leave our lesson. Farhat. Farhat Mamad Rahimov. Can you hear me? So, Ghalia, please
Can I
inform
start?
us.
Yeah,
Ghalia,
we.
after the lesson, please
Mhm.
call to Farhat and say him that he was marked as an absent student.
Okay, okay, I will say. Uh, Today, our theme, as you know, literature as the base of improving vocabulary. We will speak about this topic with Jasmina. We searched a lot of information about this topic together. So I will start. So before starting the theme, let's talk about what is the vocabulary. What is a vocabulary? Vocabulary plays a fundamental role in the reading process, and it's the critical to reading comprehension. So children learn the meanings of most words indirectly through everyday experiences with oral and written languages. And other words are learned through carefully designed instruction. Uh, Jasmina?
Yes, educators often consider four types of vocabulary. We know that listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And in listening, vocabulary refers to the words we need to know to understand what we hear. And speaking vocabulary consists of the words we use when we speak. Reading vocabulary refers to the words we need to know to understand what we read. And the fourth is writing vocabulary, consists of the words we use in writing.
Vocabulary plays an important role in learning to read. Beginning readers must use the words they hear orally to make sense of words they see in print. So kids who hear more words spoken at home learn more words and enter schools with better vocabularies. This larger vocabulary pays off exponentially as a child progresses through school. Consider, for example, what happens when a beginning reader comes to the word dig in a book. As she begins to figure out the sounds represented by the letters like D, I, G, the reader recognizes that the sounds make up a very familiar word that she has heard any and said many times. So it is harder for a beginning reader to figure out words that are not already part of their speaking oral vocabulary.
Harmer summarizes that knowing a word vocabulary means knowing about meaning, word use, word formation, and word grammar. And word meaning is also governed by metaphors and idioms. For example, the word his refers to the noise of snake and to someone threat to others. And you should know that learning vocabulary is not only learning about the words or new vocabulary, but also about how to use the vocabulary in the correct usage. What is meant by the meaning of a word is determined by the context where it is formed and also determined by its relation to other words.
Uh, so research supports using a combination of both indirect and direct approaches. Jasmina,
And
would you like to talk about? Mhm.
in direct vocabulary learning, in this vocabulary learning, children learn the meanings of most words indirectly through everyday expressions. So, with oral and written language, children learn word meanings indirectly in three ways. They engage daily in oral language, they listen to adults read to them, and they read extensively on their own.
And if to say about dialect vocabulary learning, also a great deal of vocabulary is learned that indirectly. Some vocabulary should be taught directly. Direct instruction helps students learn difficult words, such as words that represent complex concepts that are not part of the student's everyday experiences. Direct instruction of vocabulary relevant to a given text leads to better reading comprehension. Direct instruction includes, firstly, providing students with instruction in specific words that are important to students' content learning or understanding of a particular text. And the secondly is teaching students more general word learning strategies that they can apply to a variety of words, such as analyzing parts of words.
Overview of vocabulary, and students need to develop both their speaking and listening vocabulary. The first refers to those words a student can use when speaking, and the latter refers to the spoken words that a student can understand. And each type of vocabulary supports literary development as well as learning in other subject areas. And vocabulary knowledge is especially important to reading and listening comprehension. In this picture, as you see, for example, they learn about the new word incredible, and in dictionary definition, it means that impossible to believe, extraordinary. And where I heard this word, they heard this word for example, in the sea, yes, in the ocean. It was a whale. And what was happening when I heard this? They can be say about this in this like this in this picture.
And to say about teaching vocabulary, there are several effective ways to boost vocabulary. Provide students with the opportunity to learn new words, meanings indirectly, such as through conversations and shared storybook reading, explicitly teach word meanings, and teach effective word learning strategies. So we should create opportunities for students to use new and interesting words in meaningful ways in different contexts.
Assessing vocabulary, assess students' knowledge of word meanings frequently. Students can tell you the meaning of a word, name objects or pictures or match pictures with words, and they can also act out words, phrases, or ideas, and attend to the words students use when writing and speaking, and note whether they can use a variety of words in an appropriate manner.
Also student participation and group work also help build students' confidence. The more comfortable students are with their peers, with their teacher, and the overall classroom atmosphere, the more confident they will become in sharing their ideas and their opinions as a class and in groups. So whenever possible, it's encourage student participation.
And also using the literary fragments as a models is a way to stimulate students' imagination and elicit their personal connections. And anthology is intended in part to serve as model for students who wish to produce literary works. And not all students may choose to write or to write a literature in response to every literary piece. So even the title of a book suggests that an important purpose of literature is to make us feel a sense of wonder about life. And the writers remind us that life is a special gift and one full of possibilities and full of unique and wonderful people, places, and things.
So there are some ways of teaching vocabulary for teachers. They are the simple view of reading, geologic reading, and for practical principles for enhancing vocabulary instruction and using multimedia to teach vocabulary. Also content vocabulary learning and choosing in the media, for example, expanding students' experience with academic vocabulary and choosing words to teach. They are the ways of teaching vocabulary.
So you may also use classroom strategies, for example, a list group label, possible sentences, semantic features analysis, semantic gradients, word hunts, maps, and walls. All these are useful for teaching strategies,
For
vocabulary.
parents, for parents, getting the most out of nonfiction reading time and also talking counts the vocabulary of science and use they should use words to teach words and they should try to build their child's vocabulary. So it's the I think I think that is all. Okay.
Okay. So dear students, it was good from your side to work in pairs. That next time, try to demonstrate your presentations in another words. Try to use more opinions from your own sides because mostly. So after the end of the lesson, you can watch from YouTube and work on your mistakes because mostly it seemed to me that you are reading from your screens. Okay, so try to work harder. And Galia, sometimes you have made some pronunciation mistakes. Please work on your pronunciation. Okay, so just take it as my advice. Thanks a lot. Now, who would like to continue?
May I please?
Mm-hmm. All right.
I have prepared a test, but after this, I want to say why learn English through literature. If you want to become more fluent in English, you need to keep pushing yourself. Reading original English books is a great way to do this, and how reading can help you improve vocabulary. Even if you speak English well, there is always more you can learn. A good novel will be simple and easy to understand, but it will also introduce you to new words. Reading books gives you the chance to learn vocabulary in the context of a story. This means you can see how words and phrases are connected in everyday conversation. Reading modern and British or American novels will teach you all sorts of words and wacky English words like wacky, which means crazy or eccentric, and learn new vocabulary in context. Original English books will contain words you don't know before you look them up in a dictionary. Try to work out what you think they mean based on the context of the story, and in many cases you will be able to guess the meaning of the word without having to open a dictionary. And however, when writing down new vocabulary, it's a good idea to double check. And can you see?
Yeah.
This game is called Find the Match, and the rule of this game: tap the matching answer to eliminate it, and repeat until all answers are gone. The first question: show an example of a dialect. Dialect. This is answers. Who wants to answer?
A Northern American might say hello. A Southern American might say howdy.
This one, yes?
Yeah.
Yes, right. The second question. An American might pronounce the word hello by speaking the H sound. This is
Mm.
accepted.
Accent?
Yes, right. This is words can learners recognize and understand when they are used in context, but which they cannot produce. What type of vocabulary?
Um,
Vocabulary maybe
yeah.
receptive vocabulary.
Receptive vocabulary. This vocabulary refers to the words we recognize when we read any text. We read and understand many words, but we don't use them in speaking vocabulary. What type of vocabulary?
Reading vocabulary.
Reading vocabulary.
Reading vocabulary.
The main risk of the dialect is
The linguistic variety
Linguistic
refers
variety.
to a particular geographical region or used by members of a specific social class. Am I right? The second one, I mean.
second one. Okay. No.
Confusing.
How many types of vocabulary do you know?
Academic,
Academic, content,
content,
sport.
support.
Yes. What is a dialect?
A linguistic
Linguistic
variety.
variety,
In a particular geographical region or used
peculiar to a particular geographic region or used by members of specific social class.
Yes. And the last one, the main risk of the dialect is
Confusing.
thank you for your attention. That's all.
Okay, Nuraya, have you finished?
Yes.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Teacher,
Good technique,
Can I?
good message of making the report. Nuray Abdulmajid, okay, thanks a lot. Asılzat Hasan.
Yeah, so firstly, I would like to should answer what is vocabulary. So language emerges first as words, both historically and terms of the way each of us learned our first and any subsequent languages. And even in our first language, we are continually learning new words and learning new meaning for old words. So we know that young children acquires vocabulary indirectly, first by listening when others speak or read to them, and then by using words to talk to others. As children began to read and write, they acquire more words to understanding what they are reading, and then incorporate those words into their speaking and writing. Vocabulary knowledge varies greatly among learners. The word knowledge gap between groups of children begins before they are enter school. So why do some students have a richer, fuller vocabulary than some of their classmates? Firstly, language reach home with lots of verbal stimulation and wide background experiences, read to at home and at school, read a lot of independently, early development of words. And also, why do some students have a limited inadequate vocabulary compared to most of their classmates? Speaking vocabulary not encouraged at home, limited experiences outside of home, and second language, English language learners. And children, and how vocabulary affects reading development. From the research, we know that vocabulary supports reading development and increases comprehension. Students with low vocabulary scores tend to have low comprehension, and students with satisfactory or high vocabulary scores tend to have satisfactory or high comprehension scores. The report of the National Reading Panel states that the complex process of comprehension is critical to the development of children's reading skills and cannot be understood without a clear understanding of rural vocabulary development. And so I would like to talk about independent and international vocabulary learning. So, most students acquire vocabulary incidentally through indirect exposure to words at home or at school, by listening and talking, um, by listening to books, read aloud to them, and by reading widely on their own. The amount of reading is important to long-term vocabulary development and intentional vocabulary learning. Students need to be expectedly taught methods for international vocabulary learning. So according to Michael Graves, effective intentional vocabulary, there are teaching specific words. Firstly, reach to support understanding of text containing those words, and teaching word learning strategies that students can use independently. And last one, promoting the development of words and using wordplay activities to motivate and engage students in learning new words. And also, I would like to, for example, the word persist. Firstly should write an example of this word and write a synonym of this word persist, and also write an example of when something doesn't opposite of persist. And last one, we should write an antonym of this word. So that's all, teacher.
Okay, thanks a lot. So,
I have a question.
mm-hmm.
I saw that in early stage of learning, we teach active or passive vocabulary.
I think passive vocabulary in
Why?
early, because as you said, early vocabulary, we how can I say? Passive.
No,
We
okay, please.
So, Asılzat, no answer?
yes, I don't know.
Asel, what is your point about it?
I think in early stage of learning vocabulary, of learning languages, or we use active vocabulary because learners knows words in how can I say, in active vocabulary, learners know words and can use it correctly in their speech and writing. And in passive vocabulary, students know understand words, but aren't yet able to use them in their speech, writing, I think.
Okay. Thanks a lot. So thank you a lot, Asel. Okay, who would like to continue?
Can I?
Yürüyor.
One minute, please. I may test six sections. I can do election. Can you see that?
Yeah, we can see it.
So the first question, who are the authors of the book in which it's written that the terms vocabulary, lexis, and lexicon are synonymous? First, A, Richards and Schmidt, Jane Austen, Jackson and Avila,
and George Eliot and Thomas Hardy. Girls, please.
C. Jackson and
Well,
Jackson and
Jackson.
Ansel. Yes, you are right. The next question. Who claims that a dictionary is a collection of tokens, including single words, compound words, and ideas? A. Lawrence and Schmidt, Evelyn Wool, Virginia Woolf, and Richards and Schmidt.
Richards and
Richardson.
Hi, you are right. Thanks a lot. The third question. Who defined vocabulary as knowledge of words and words meaning in both oral and printed language? Lur Osborne Hibbert, Evelyn Osborne Jane, Hibbert and Lawrence, and Eliot and Hardy.
A.
A. Osborne.
Lur
Hibbert.
Osborne and expert. Yes, you're right. All right. And who summarizes that knowledge? A word means knowing about meaning, word use, word formation, and word grammar. Mary Shelley, Harma Jeremy, Thackeray, and Osborne.
Jeremy.
Harma Jeremy, yes, of course. And next, which of the authors said that the teaching vocabulary is clearly more than just presenting new words? Umbrella, Harmer, Siebert, or Jackson?
Harmer.
Harmer. And the last question, according to Cameron, vocabulary is not simply about learning words, but it's actually much more than it. Vocabulary is one of the language components that can affect macro skills. A list of target language words and a set of lexemes, including single words.
Not simply about learning
A.
words.
Not simply about learning words, but it's actually much more as it is.
Yes, you're right. And so that's it. Thanks a lot.
Teacher, you turned off your...
Yeah, I know, dear students. Someone called from university. It was urgent and I had to answer. So I think we are enough for today. So what about other students? So you can make your speech turn by turn. This week, these students, for another, you can be divided in any way. So it's up to you, dear students. So next time, Farhat, stay on camera, switch on your microphones, and join our classes. You are still out of, I think, yes, he's out still. He can't hear us. Okay, dear students, thanks for attending. Have a good day off. So if you would like to make a speech,